Hello friends, I'm Stanislav Chernonog, the author and creator of the Vector Massage and Somatics School, and in this video we will tell you what to do if you do not have your own personal foot massager and still want to get a foot massage. A few words about self-massage. This is a very smart job. Firstly, it's nice, secondly, it's useful, and thirdly, it's useful for you as a professional. The fact is that you communicate with people, do some kind of work with other people, and in fact you have very little opportunity to know how they actually feel. The most standard comment you get after you've had a massage is, well, it was fine. This is not at all the information that you want to receive from a client. I want to understand how powerful it was, how interesting it was, how holistic it was, how pleasant it was, how painful it was, and how useful and pleasant it was from what was painful. There are tons of details about what you would like to know about how your patient feels, and there is no clear way for you to get the information. It is rare when you come across a talkative patient who will tell you everything like on a silver platter. Accordingly, if you want to improve your practice, then you need to understand what they feel inside their body and learn to understand which movements were good, which were bad, which didn't hit at all, and in general, where is the place where it was necessary to hit. Because at the moment, when you touch yourself, you find some significant sensitive element, you learn to find landmarks with your hands around which you need to work in order to get into these landmarks in the patient's body. Your personal sense is the best reinforcement of landmarks, and when you already have sensations, you can find anatomical landmarks around which you will dance in the patient's body. Besides, it's a very cool job when you know how to work with yourself. You immersed in work with yourself. You conduct research. You come up with new approaches to how it should be on the patient. You discover some new artifacts in yourself that you cannot find in the patient's body. You are being treated. It can be quite difficult to find quality hands to work with you, because if you are a developed and good specialist, then you have requirements for how they should work with you. As a rule, it is quite difficult to find a specialist who will work exactly the way you want. The moment you work with yourself, you can allow whatever you want, exactly the amount you want, exactly the strength you want. It would seem that all these comments are relevant for experts, people who regularly massage something professionally, need someone and so on, but no. All the same will be true for you, if you just for the first time on this video decided to do self-massage of the foot. First, this is research. You have a foot. It is very important. Again, at the level of a person who has been doing massage for more than 20 years, at the level of a person who has worked more than 30,000 hours of literal practice with people, I can tell you with all confidence that the foot is a mega important place in your body. The moment you work with it, you will definitely do yourself a lot of good. Secondly, in addition to benefits, it will be this study itself. You will learn a lot of interesting things about your foot. Foot massage will definitely be more interesting for you than watching some obscure series. This is an adventure. Try to treat this process as an adventure. You will learn something about yourself. You will be able to understand what gives you pleasure and actually give yourself this pleasure. As if it was not enough for you, you will still benefit from it. Benefit in the sense of health, benefit in the sense of self-awareness, benefit in the sense of mood. So enough talk, let's get to work. I will work in this position with my leg bent at the knee and abducted to gain access to the foot. There are different options. You can work without oil on dry. I will work on oil. Why? Because when we work on oil, we also moisturize the skin of the foot. And the skin of the foot is usually excessively keratinized, so some oil will be extremely beneficial for the skin of the foot. Well, let's start with the first movement. It will be without oil. Take the lateral surface of the hand, this surface here, and with this lateral surface begin to reciprocate along the foot. You can take a little oil, apply oil. and try to reciprocate already in oil. We do this with the opposite hand along the long part of the foot. Try to feel that there is the middle of the foot, there is its outer part. It is convenient to massage the outer part, not with the side part, but with the knuckles. Try to work on the inside of the foot, more here and there. The side of the base of the palm will work more here. Try to feel this movement, how it changes depending on which part of the foot you are working on. We work with the lateral part of the foot of the fist. We work with the knuckles. We work with the base of the palm. The essence of movement is the same. Then we take the second hand and begin to work a little obliquely. If you see, I go a little bit on the forearm. This is where a very important structure passes, the tibialis posterior muscle. This is where the tendon of the tibialis posterior muscle passes. It is attached somewhere here. Here is its final attachment, somewhere in the middle of the foot. The tendon very often adheres to the surrounding tissues. Swelling occurs there. Pain occurs there. We are now working on the tendon of the posterior tibial muscle, working with the same hand. You can do it through the cam, you can do it with a sewing motion. The long flexor of the thumb also passes here. The long flexor of the fingers passes here. They also have tendons, they tend to fuse together. They have special channels. These tendons tend to fuse with these channels, fluids stagnate, edema, etc. In general, very good and useful work, in addition, pleasant. You can also massage the inside of the heel. This is the reflex zone of the kidneys, so if you have problems with swelling, feel free to massage the side of the heel. So I naturally moved on to the next movement. I have the base of my palm. Here is the protrusion of the ulnar part of the palm. I can take this protrusion and use this protrusion to massage in a circular motion along the course of the tendons and along the inner surface of the heel. It's a good feeling when you feel that the foot starts to warm up. You can alternate all those movements that we did before with each other. Rubbing again pleasant, again periodically changes hands so that the hands do not stagnate. Circular movements, not enough oil for me, I add more oil. I feel that there is not enough oil based on the fact that the hands stop slipping. There may be a situation when you pour too much oil, especially at the beginning, it often happens. The hand then starts to slip. You can move the excess oil up the leg. Here is such a surface right here. We begin to make a rotational movement from ourselves. If in this case we released structures from deeper layers, stretch them, then here we shift them and release them from structures going in the other direction. Relatively speaking, we have the white tendon of the foot, the square muscle of the foot, aponeurosis of the foot, and there are structures that go like this. We need to separate them from each other. Here we first separate them in one direction, then separate them in another direction. Rotational motion allows you to do this more efficiently. The important thing is to enjoy what you are doing. If somehow it doesn't work out very well, we slow down and begin to act so that the pleasure is obtained. Rotational circular movements can be fixed. If the foot dangles, you can fix the foot with the other hand. The next movement will be when we grab the foot from the back and begin to massage it with our thumbs. It is as if we are pressing with such a square finger, we are pressing down with a diving movement into the depths. We need to realize that the foot consists of many bones, and there is a muscular system and there is a skeletal system, and try to realize that the bones exist and try to feel these bones. Our foot consists, relatively speaking, of several parts. There are in fact fingers, there is a heel. The part that is closer to the heel is the tarsus. The part that is farther from the heel is the metatarsus. Thus we take the metatarsus with our hand and try to find the metatarsus bones, which are actually a continuation of our fingers. We find the fifth metatarsal, which is related to the little toe. We find the fourth metatarsal, which is related to the ring toe. The third metatarsal, which is related to the middle toe. The second metatarsal, which is related to the index finger. And the first metatarsal, which is related to the big toe. This is very interesting work. There are many sensitive points. We go deep into the foot and separate these structures from each other. The so-called worm-like muscle parts there. They are small. They are very often tense in a person living in shoes. Walking in shoes is excessively tense and clamped. This has a bad effect on our health. Relatively speaking, when you feel the bones of the metatarsus, when you go into the space between the bones of the metatarsus, it is very pleasant. Quite painful at times, but what I can tell you for sure is very helpful. If we're talking about how it looks on the body, on the leg, we have such a square thumb that comes on top like this. There are fingers of the hand that allow you to grab the bone of the toes. It is as if you are taking a bone in forceps and compressing it from different sides, passing sequentially from the far part of the bone to the near one, and vice versa from the near part of the bone to the far one. This is a very good work. Especially I would like to highlight a piece of work that relates to the interdigital membranes. The place where the fingers pass into the metatarsus. Between the fingers there are special skin membranes. Firstly, there are special tendons that fix these bones together and provide greater stability. Here there is a huge number of reflex points in these membranes. These points are often very painful. When you take again like forceps, with two fingers grab this membrane and begin to punch it. If you find some acute point, then you reduce the degree of pressure and stay at this point until the acute pain passes. It can take literally several minutes for one point. Your body will definitely thank you for massaging these points. You will feel how it can be a burning sensation, it can be sharp pain, and you will feel how the foot as a whole will relax very much after this burning sensation and pain has passed. For different patients, these will be different interdigital membranes. For example, between the second and third, I have a clear pain, it burns directly, it is directly felt quite strongly. I feel like as I press there, the pain goes away and a pleasant warmth and relaxation spreads along the foot. Interdigital membranes, by the way, you can work with the finger themselves. We have thumb joints. How do we take care of them? We feel the joint as a kind of expansion. We have a bone, we walk along the bone, then we find, as it were, a ball, and we begin to feel this ball from different sides. The lower fingers are the support. The upper finger is active. As if you were rolling a ball in your hands, take a lollipop and try to turn it between two fingers. You need to do the same with the knuckles. You will find that in some places there is sharp soreness in the joints. These are most likely inflammatory processes in the joints. The feet are rarely healthy. This is how it would be good to go through all the joints. I recommend that you pay special attention to the joints of the thumb. Here very often a bone grows on the thumb of people. It is often acutely painful, excruciatingly painful. Try to walk over all those places where the joint of the thumb is painful. A good way for the thumb is to grab between the base of the thumb and these other fingers here. Such a big bastard. Why is this a good way? Because our fingers and hands get tired in general, and when we work with the base of the thumb, it is not so physically demanding. In addition, when you work with two fingers, the touch area is quite small. When you work with the base of your thumb, it is pleasant. A rather curious moment will be the understanding that you have a thumb and the base of the thumb on the opposite hand will be very significantly associated with the big toe on your foot. That is, I am working now with the right foot, and my problems in the big toe of the right foot will correlate with the problems in the big toe of the left hand. Therefore, a pretty good productive work is when you take the opposite hand and start with the base of the thumb on the opposite hand to knee the base of the big toe on your foot. Diagonal. You may feel that if you have soreness in the big toe of your right foot, then most likely you will have soreness in the big toe of your left hand. This is a rather curious and important moment for understanding how the body works. If after massaging your feet with your own hands, these same hands hurt, this is good news. because we will record a video on self-massage of the hand and palm in a while. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss this video. We work with the chart of the thumb. Similarly, we can work with the charted checks of the fingers in the more distant phalanges. We have a joint that actually separates the fingers from the metatarsus, and there is the next joint. It can also be worked out by squeezing it from all sides. There are two joints on all fingers except the thumb, the near joint and the far joint. They are also quite sensitive. One joint and another joint. There is a special place in the foot. This is the place where the toe meets the ball of the toe. The next interesting movement will be moving along the finger along the surface that is contracting at the moment when we contract our fingers. Walk on the plantar side of your toes and pay particular attention to where the tendons pass over the joint. This place is also often quite painful. If you have crooked fingers, then pay special attention to these places. Often the squeezing twisting of the fingers is due to the fact that these tendons adhere to the finger itself. Instead of having freedom of movement, they grow together, which leads to twisting. A particularly interesting place on the foot is where the ball of the toe begins. You can take this pad and touch it, pushing away from you, as if lengthening this pad. Similarly, we work with each finger. I must say that we are now showing versions where you work with almost all structures. You don't have to do this every massage. Maybe at some point you're only touching the balls of your toes. At some point you're massaging your knuckles. At some point you're concentrating on the arch of your foot. At some point you're concentrating on the inner or outer heel. So the next move we're going to make is the plucking move. For many of us, corn is grown according to the article. The main place for corn is naturally part of the metatarsus, especially on the side of the little finger or on the side of the thumb. Some people develop corn in the middle of the foot. This is due to the fact that people do not have a transverse arch of the foot. Many people have problems of the heel, on the outside of the heel, on the inside of the heel, on the front of the heel. Sometimes there are problems. Our task is to take the skin of the foot and, as if with tongs, grab it and squeeze it out a little. Your task is to grab a piece of skin and pinch yourself for it. Be gentle at first, it can be quite painful, but it's a very useful movement nonetheless. It would be nice to work through all those places to which you have enough imagination. First of all, this is the outer edge of the foot. Pay special attention if you have any corns to these corns, grabbing them from different sides. This contributes to the fact that the structures of corns are a kind of structure that is immersed deep in the foot. This is a structure that prevents different tissues from moving relative to each other. You grab the corns and begin, as it were, to separate one part of the tissue from another. The skin from the subcutaneous fat from the fascia from the tendons. Thus, as if plucking, you separate different parts of the tissues. This is both pleasant and useful. Calluses are a rather harmful part of our being, that is, they save us from something not very good, from injuring your foot. But at some point, the protective function, the healing part of the callus, turns into a destructive part. When the calluses splicing together different structures, this leads to a cascade of very negative effects on the functioning of the foot. For example, we have reduced mobility in the foot. For example, our body receives false information about what we rely on and incorrectly builds the functioning of the whole body in a different way. So working with the skin, making sure that the skin can move freely in relation to the deeper structures is very helpful. The next important part is the outer heel work. Here we again work with diving movements. This work is very promising. It improves the arch of the foot. It stimulates the internal organs. Here we have the organs of the abdominal cavity located along the arch of the foot, the genitals, that is, just open space. I can tell you with all the expert confidence that the work on the arch of the foot significantly improves the functioning of the internal organs. Here I saw it right during the massage session, which I did on the foot. Therefore, work with the arch of the foot for a long time with pleasure, with taste, observing how your sensations inside the intestines will change. I feel warmer, much more relaxed, and I feel like my digestive system works differently. For example, I know a little, I want to pay attention here to work with the gallbladder region. Here, accordingly, here, I feel a response and feedback inside my abdominal cavity. If you're also interested in the reflex zones of the food, then there are a fairly large number of atlases which indicate where which organ is located. To some extent, this is individual for each person individually. There is no strict and rigid sequence, but you can get a general idea. In addition, work with the place that hurts you and you will be happy. The next essential point will be to work on the punching technique in the place where our calcaneus connects to the tibia. Here, we have such a thing as the talus. The calcaneal talar joint, there is a ligament that connects our calcaneus to the tibia. This is the area that is very important. Work with it too. And finally, the last place that we definitely need to work with is the zone of retainers. The foot is held on the outside by several structures that prevent the tendons from taking the shortest path between the toes and the knee, for example. We still have a compact foot here, and there are structures that do not allow the tendon to be pulled directly. It's quite comfortable that you have a neat little ankle that does not widen every time you move your foot, but nevertheless, these tendons often get stuck under the retainers, so we need to understand that there is a retainer at the beginning of the lift. There are retainers. On the side, you can do it with these movements when you take the inner surface between the index finger and thumb and begin to make such rotational movements with this surface as if you were making a nettle. But it's mostly pretty nice. And finally, an interesting point will be that I slightly changed the position when you walk along the lateral surface, kneading the little finger flexor, the little finger abductor muscle. On the outer edge, this affects the balance of the foot on the outer edge and inside. As you understand, our foot has a horizon of support on the inner surface, and this leads to the fact that our arch of the foot collapses and our foot tends to collapse on the outer side of the foot. This leads to the fact that we have a bone growing on the thumb. Working with the lateral surface of the foot leads to the fact that we balance the foot relative to the outer edge. Working with the inner surface of the foot, pressing on the big toe balances the foot along the inner edge. It is very important to work on the inner surface of the foot along the big toe, and it is very important to work on the little toe along the outer edge of the foot. And in the end, to get the completion, I recommend making a few stroking movements on the foot. You can cover it from the outside and from the inside along the foot, along the back surface, and make several movements when you seem to grab a wet towel, not to squeeze it out much, but a little. And with pressing movements, squeeze the foot, as if providing it with a sense of the boundary. Quite an interesting point will be understanding whether it is worth working with the second one with you after you have worked with the first one. I recommend that for research purposes, first work with one foot and not work with the second. Be like this for a while. Leave with one mashed foot and the other not mashed. You will be really surprised to notice the magnitude of the difference you get after working one foot and not working the other. My left foot, with which I have not worked now, literally yells, "How am I? Well, look at me, I already have cramps in some places." My left foot wants to get the right job. It is worth doing at least once in order to understand how much you separate yourself by not working with your feet. So that the left or right foot, which you have not worked with, will tell you how bad it is in everyday life. In general, of course, it is recommended to work with both the left and right foot. You will find how different they are from each other. There will be different points, different density, different sensitivity, and a completely separate song is this work with the muscles of the lower leg. Self-massage of the muscles of the lower leg, where we work with the posterior tibial muscle, with the muscles that bend the fingers, with the muscles of the lateral surface of the lower leg, with the muscles of the tibia and the extensors of the fingers. It is also worth working with the ligamentous apparatus of the lower leg. This is the attachment of the fibula to the tibia, the connection of the tibia to the talus, to the calcaneus. All this is an important big piece of work which we didn't touch at all in this video. In general, we plan to develop the topic of self-massage on our channel, so be sure to write in the comments how interesting this is for you, which regions will be especially interesting and significant for you. Be sure to subscribe to our channel if you want to receive information about our new videos. Put likes if you liked this video, put dislikes if you didn't like it, comment, discuss, tell us what you will be interested in, direct our channel in the direction that occupies you. I'm Stanislav Chernonog, the author and creator of the Vector Massage and Somatics School. Here on our channel we will talk about how to properly massage and how to make money on it. Until we meet again, friends.